Greetings, Retro Zoltan here. Well, I finally have one after watching others like Gen X Grown Up get one of these early.
Your dad looks bad.
It's been a painful wait, but it finally came in. Since I now have one, I'm going to report whether this is worth the wait, the money, and if having an SD card slot makes it expandable. Spoiler alert, yes it does. Introducing the MyArcade Gamestation Go. Just like the GameStation Pro video, I'm going to split the review into how to add your own games instructional, so if you're interested in how to add your own games and that sort of thing, the video is now also available. It seems I've been looking a lot at MyArcade lately. I can't say entirely where my collection started exactly from these guys, but rest assured this is one I was anticipating for quite some time. I have a lot of love for the GameStation Pro and what it can do, but when I caught wind that they were making a portable version, let's just say Mr. Wait Until It's Cheaper suddenly was pre-ordering. I think that says a lot about how excited I was for this. Before I unbox this thing, the packaging is pretty exciting. Perfect for off-the-shelf reading, but I'm guessing this will be behind glass if it's in a store somewhere. Regardless, it's showing you its features, and most importantly, what games it comes with, which is clearly quite a bit. Before you pause to see it all, I'll be providing a link to show the full list of games. No worries. They even went through the trouble of making the top lid have that magnetic thing that they've been doing lately with other products. It's quite satisfying feeling that click. Anyway, opening it up is impressive, and between several layers of black tissue paper are tons of items, including a USB wall adapter, which I haven't seen included in anything for ages, an A to C USB cable, and an HDMI cable. These additions felt like they didn't want to skimp here, and I appreciate that. Also included is a leaflet telling you to connect it to your wireless network for updates, and registration, and an advertisement for secondary controllers you may consider to take your system to the next level. Also included is a certificate of authenticity, so you know you didn't buy something fake, I guess. A quick start multi-language instruction manual, and a slightly older catalog talking about some of the other products. Oh, I have that. As I hold the Atari Gamestation Go, I like how it feels. It's certainly the weight I was expecting, and I can't wait to dive in further. I was told out of all the handhelds I have, this one looks the most normal in my giant hands. So if you have big hands, expect this to be a great fit. Oddly enough, I don't have a Steam Deck or a Nintendo Switch 2 yet, but it's certainly larger than my Nintendo Switch 1. There's no variation of colors for this device yet, which is a shame, but currently the only choice is white with some brown and orange colors. If you were raised in the northeast region of the United States, you may recognize that it has the same color palette as the Caldor logo. This is very much an 80s color palette, which is on brand for retro gaming, something like Atari games. Anyway, I picked this up pre-order from Atari themselves for $180. I suspect these will not go down in price anytime soon, and accessories like extra controllers and other things will be showing up in a few months. As you can see, there are a ton of buttons and dials on this thing. I think MyArcade definitely didn't want to leave anything out, so let's go through them all. On the top left is what many will call a dial or a paddle, but I'm guessing you're better off calling it a spinner because there's no end as you can keep on spinning it. My guess is that when you start up a game, it takes a reading from where the dial is to establish the middle. Going down, you can see the D-pad, which feels okay. I don't get too picky with D-pads, especially expecting to play older games like Atari. But since this is supporting more than that, I may not like it during gameplay. More on that later. What gets most of my attention is a little trackball. Now, if you're an old geezer like me, you have fond memories of being in arcades, playing Centipede, Missile Command, and even Marble Madness rolling a giant ball around. All Atari titles, by the way. It looks like Atari embraced this technology back in the 80s for their video games, and finally it's available for the common user. If you're not old, think of an old computer mouse. One of those ones with a ball in it, turned upside down. Now that I think of it, it's old also. How old am I?
Hello, computer.
Anyway, I think MyArcade and Atari are making history since this is absolutely the first handheld gaming device ever to be officially released having a tracking ball. And with so many games that use them, this is what has me the most excited for this. On the right-hand side, you can see the typical ABXY buttons in the usual diamond formation. I'm thrilled that they're labeled and they have a good feel to them. I have no complaints here. Under it, that's even more surprising, is the number pad. If you wanted an authentic Atari 5200 gaming experience, you can't get much closer than this, honestly. To see a system dedicate this much space to give Atari 5200 game lovers an authentic experience experience just speaks volumes. Who else is going to do this? There's also, of course, buttons for the start, select, settings, and credit, which is interesting. Kind of bizarre to me that they put them on top, however. Given how you have to hold this thing, it might not be the easiest reach. A big attraction for this device is the 7-inch LCD screen, which just happens to be the same size as the Nintendo Switch 2. Can't say I'm upset about this, and I'm guessing this is where a majority of the cost went for this device. Also on the front are dual stereo speakers, which I'm definitely not upset about. This is a big deal to me, and I think they're in the perfect spots. The top sports trigger and shoulder buttons, which I can't imagine using for old Atari games, but for the other games, this will be a welcome addition. I like these at first, but the more I hold this device properly and try to reach for them, it's a bit uncomfortable, even for my hands. Still, it might be okay during gameplay, and I just have to see how I feel about them later. Also on the top is a power switch, a home button, a microSD card slot, which we'll definitely talk about more later, power on and charging LCD along with its USB-C charging port, an HDMI port, which we'll look at as well, a headphone jack, thank you very much, and a volume rocker switch. On the back side, there are grips that are straight from the design of the Pocket Player Pros that I love so much. Eventually, someday, I'll do a review of those, I swear. Okay, there's also a cooling vent, 2 USB-C ports for adding controllers, and drumroll please, a kickstand. Yes, a kickstand. I can imagine popping this thing on a desk, connecting controllers and battling it out. If I was the camping sort, I would certainly bring this along. Or just visiting a friend that I used to play Atari with. Wait, did I have friends back then? My initial inspection of my unit came up flat when I noticed the screen on the left side of my device is a bit raised to where I'm unsure this is supposed to be flush, like on the right side. I'm guessing the glue didn't hold, or there might be a manufacturing problem, so I'll just have to address this later. But yeah, not a great start after spending $180. It's still early to tell if mine's a one-off, but I'm certainly concerned. At least it's not falling out or anything, but I'll have to be keeping an eye on it for sure. I'll be sure to post my experience working with MyArcade to get this taken care of after this review. So let's turn this sucker on. On boot up, you're going to notice glowing rings around the buttons in the D-pad. This is MyArcade's Smart Glow technology. That's a pretty impressive feature. In the menus and even in games, the controls you will be able to use light up. That's right. So even now, fully booted up, it's letting you know what buttons could be used to navigate the menu. It's brilliant, and I wish I thought of it honestly. Almost every button lights up, except for the option buttons on the top. If you've been watching my videos, you know I'm not thrilled about background music and menus. But before I shut it off forever, I have to say the music has a nice techno feel to it. This music certainly works for an Atari-based handheld. Once you dive deeper into the menus, it turns off at least, so you can hear other things. The main menu consists of a full array of included games in their proper categories. There's the Atari category, which consists of Atari 2600, 5200, 7800, Atari Arcade, M Network, and Multiplayer. Right away, you'll notice each game has gameplay footage to see what you're getting into. If you're a nostalgic user that doesn't remember the name of a game, but you remember how it's played, this is a great way to find it. These videos also have sound too, so we may know why they choose to turn the background music off in this part of the menu system. Another helpful feature is each game before playing them will have an option to find out more by pushing the Y button, which will be more of a rundown of controls, settings, gameplay, variations, and expert tips. How's that for extra? During the games, you can hit settings, which will allow you to save and load a game, as well as see the controls, mess with difficulty, screen brightness, and adjusting the aspect ratio. You will also notice that once you load up a game, the Smart Glow may change what's lighting up. Loading up Major Havoc, an old-time favorite for instance, lights up the D-pad and rollerball as options. Funny enough, the Major Havoc arcade cabinet didn't really have either. 5200 games will obviously take full use of the number pad, which is something that no other out-of-the-box handheld can honestly give you. The Atari arcade games even emulate you putting in a credit before you can play the games. Talk about an original arcade experience. To be honest, I wish they added a coin sound, but this is me just being ridiculous. Another section is Atari Recharged, that has several of the Recharged gaming series that I've talked about before when I reviewed the VCS. These essentially are upgrades to your favorite classics, including Berserk, Centipede, and more. I really love these because in most cases it's the same mechanics, so you instantly know how to play these. But it has several unexpected upgrades and things to make the game more enjoyable and feel less dated. If you're nostalgic but want something a bit fresher, this is the way to go. And including these for free is fairly generous and makes the high sticker price sting a bit less. Currently there are 5 games, but I believe there's the possibility for more to be added with future updates. I'm excited to see if this happens. Another selection is the Balls of Steel Pinball series, which is something I really wasn't expecting, honestly. I don't believe these are duplicates of real pinball machines, but they're pretty fun, and I have to admit the Centipede one is my favorite for having the original gameplay sounds in it. These are well done, and I hope there's a way to get more of these somehow. It's a bit awkward playing pinball on a horizontal form factor, but the gameplay scrolling isn't too bad from what I see so far. There's the Pac-Man selection included, which is nothing more than the classic arcade, a sped-up version, and the Atari 2600 version, which is, well, a thing. If you're not old enough to remember this one, you won't be impressed. Jalico Games have its own selection that includes all the 8-bit, 16-bit, and arcade titles, which is a nice addition. I'm not much of a sports game nut, but Bases Loaded, a popular title, was certainly a game I played a lot. There's also Pico Games, which, just like Jalico, has a number of 8-bit, 16-bit, and arcade titles. I thought perhaps Atari had their hands on these companies, but it doesn't seem to be the case. This is more likely MyArcade's doing. I wonder if they'll add more. I keep mentioning the possibility for more because it's certainly possible, thanks to the fact that it has the capability of connecting to the internet via wireless. With this option, you'll be able to receive downloads that will most likely fix things, as well as possibly add more titles, which I hope they do. Jury is still out on how much they're going to support this. If you're tired of waiting, of course, there's the option I know a lot of people are excited about. The SD card. Keep in mind, however, using the SD slot for loading your own games is not supported by MyArcade, Atari, or your mom. It just happens to work, a backdoor if you will, that will allow you to add your own games if you use proper formatting and that sort of thing. After experimenting, I found out that the SD card I made for my GameStation Pro works just fine, and it appears even more works on this thing than I ever thought possible. Using an SD card, I was able to add even more Atari 2600, 5200, and 7800 games. Adding ROMs will also allow Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, MAME, Nintendo, PC Engine, Sega CD, Sega Game Gear, Sega Master System, and Super Nintendo games. But there's even more. Unique to the Go, I was also able to add Atari Lynx, Sony PlayStation, Sega Dreamcast, Neo Geo Pocket, Nintendo 64, and WonderSwan. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot, Intellivision, which to me is something I got very excited about. I would have to say Atari Lynx was something people really wanted on this handheld, and having it now on the go is a huge deal. Keep in mind only spinner games will work on the Atari 2600 titles only. With it being experimental, features you may want, like loading and saving games, are not available. And controls are not always what you want them to be, with no way to change them. If you want to know how to add these yourself, please see my How to Expand the GameStation Go video. Gameplay was amazing. I had no serious issues. There was no significant slowdown or anything making me think this thing was choking. Emulated systems using the SD card, however, had me feeling quite different. Some PlayStation games ran fairly sluggish, and Nintendo 64 is much worse, which is fairly disappointing. Oddly enough, Dreamcast looks promising, but the sound is completely not working, so take that however you will. As far as controls, I have to admit the rollerball was hard to get used to, since it's smaller than the original. And by default, it's fairly sensitive. It's easy to overcompensate, but after a while you get used to it and it's a nice option to have. At least in most situations, you can switch to the D-pad. Speaking of the D-pad, it was more than good for playing these games. It's accurate, feels good, and I like it. I was concerned that it may be a bit stiff, but my thumb didn't tire of it like I thought it may. The spinner is a bit of an odd duck for me, since my brain keeps thinking it's an analog stick due to all the other handhelds out there. It's just my brain trying to catch up with reality. One of the worst things to note about the GameStation Go is that controls aren't mappable. So if you would prefer buttons changed around, that's not going to happen. Not yet, anyway. What's worse is when you add your own games, it's hard to know what buttons do what. When you find them, that's the only way you can play it. Atari Lynx, for instance, the A and B buttons are really A and Y, and there's no way around it. It's uncomfortable, and you'll have to deal. It works, but it could be better. The hardware is accommodating, but the software is not. Go figure. MyArcade also sells controllers for this system, and it's been found that the older controllers for the GameStation Pro are compatible as well. Might be worth picking up those cheap if you can find them. I suspect more surprises of other controllers will be found also. The ones exclusive for the Go are slated to come out in December, So keep your eye out on those if you want more of a home console sort of experience. Speaking of, the HDMI option is pretty good here, but it's not plug and play like you'd expect. Best to connect the HDMI and then boot up. Just like the Nintendo Switch, this can be used as a console. And with the kickstand, you can sort of prop it up somewhere while playing without too much of a fuss. Nothing else to mention other than the fact that I did have an Atari recharged game crash on me, which was unexpected. I was doing pretty lousy anyway, so I guess it didn't like that. It only happened once so far while using this, so this might just be a one-off and no cause for alarm just yet. I expect this will be addressed in updates, which will be available. There is, of course, the screen coming up a little bit, which I plan to talk to MyArcade about, and I'll keep you updated on how they treat me as I reach out as a customer and not as a super retro gaming influencer. It won't be too much of a stretch. That's all I have to say about the GameStation Go, as far as a general look, that is. And as more things are discovered, I'll most likely be posting about them. It's a unique portable system, and as some may feel it's a bit too much, a bit too ridiculous looking, it's giving us everything we wanted, pleasing so many people at the same time. Now we can get better experiences with the trackball. And of course, we can now enjoy even more Atari games with the number pad, something I never thought I'd see a handheld device have ever. It's unique and can play a lot, so I like it. And I think if you've been considering this, you would certainly be enjoying this. If you're more interested in the expansion using the SD card, it's nice for a quick pickup. But without the ability to save at the moment, it's very disappointing. It's good to add and play Atari Pitfall, which you could never save anyways. But if you want to play Pokemon Ruby, you're going to have to leave your system on forever. And if that was not enough to discourage you, you will have no say on how to control any of these games, which is a huge disappointment. I suspect these could be fixed by MyArcade, but it's a guessing game if they will fix it. Or if they care. We'll just have to wait and see. Before I go, please consider joining my Discord to chat with me and others about handheld gaming devices or ridiculous things like hot glue sandals. Yeah, that happened. And if you want to support me making content like this, please consider joining my Patreon for exclusive content, downloads, and more. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
One night in the arcade when all